Awesome. Great.
Okay.
Let me put still having people joining. That's fine.
Yeah, look.
I just need to change my name.
Awesome. Great.
Hey, Website, how are you?
Let me put
Oh, are we broadcasting to YouTube?
still having people joining. This is also good live on YouTube as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Look at us. We are all famous.
Yeah. Great. I'll now obviously put all of you on mute, just to sort of ensure a quick decorum. Wonderful. So thanks to each one of you, and very good evening to everybody out here for joining. Before I start, I must inform you a couple of ground rules. This is for the very first time we are doing Tech Tuesdays live on Zoom. And this was more of a compulsion because the place where we normally host our, where we've been hosting Tech Tuesday for the past 11 months had to face a major emergency. Hence, we moved the entire platform on Zoom just for today. Given that this is going to be a virtual one, it's important that we follow certain ground rules to the T. Kindly, at all times, keep your video on and make your mic on mute. This event, like always, is getting recorded as well as getting streamed on YouTube. So also, yeah, if you can, smile. And if you have a question, raise a hand or just ping me on the chat. I'm more than happy to sort of go ahead and let you go ahead and speak. Once again, my warm welcome to our esteemed panel members for this evening and to all the guests present here at the 12th episode of Tech Tuesdays. We just completed 12 months. That's a great achievement, I guess. For some of you who are attending this event for the very first time, Tech Tuesdays UK stemmed from the very idea of building a community that ideates, nurtures, and then fosters a free-flow discussion of disruptive technologies, which have the potential to impact 1 billion lives. As you'd be aware, that Tech Tuesdays UK is a monthly event that takes place on the first Tuesdays of every month, where we spend an hour and a half having conversations around technology. The most unique thing about Tech Tuesdays UK, as you'd realize over the next 60 or 90 minutes, that this is a free-flow discussion where we do not have any given script or any given set of questions or even a moderation. I would earnestly request each one of you to spread the good word around during the event as well as after the event. While the event is on, the episode is live, please tweet about us on our Twitter handle, which is @TechTuesdaysUK, or please talk about us on LinkedIn using the hashtag #TechTuesdaysUK. You can also catch up with the old episode of Tech Tuesdays on YouTube. As is the practice, as you would know, that we will invite some of you to share your thoughts on Tech Tuesdays. Your comments are extremely valuable to us, and they will be highly appreciated. And for your records, they will be shared across all our digital touchpoints. The guests whom we will interview are requested to stay back after the episode ends, and we will directly communicate to the guest to stay back. We have 2 volunteers, Alina and Rujuta, in the volunteering team, who will coordinate with the selected guest for their media bites. As you'd be aware that every episode of Tech Tuesdays is based on a particular technology theme, and the theme for today's evening is eSports and gaming. And to drive the discussion today, we have an amazing panel with us. Let me take the pleasure of inviting them and requesting them to sort of greet the other members in the room. We have Alok Chitre, who is the Chief Business Officer at Rajasthan Royals. Alok has been here in the past. He was one of the panel members in our September episode on sports and media. We have Joe Newcomb, who is the Vice President at Allison Smith. And we have Vaibhav Panchal, who is the Director at Microsoft UK. We actually had one more person, Mr. Chris Travers, who is the VP of Global Partnerships at A4 Arcade, who is supposed to join us. Unfortunately, Chris is down with COVID, so all the best wishes to him. He should get well soon. I now leave the floor open. Vaibhav, Vaibhav, Alok, and Joan, the floor is all yours.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. Hi.
Good evening. Thanks.
Hi. Good evening, Alok.
Good evening. Good evening, Jack.
All right.
Hi, Joe.
I mean, this is more of an open channel. You can discuss various topics over here. So, Joe, do you want to get started? Alok, you, or I mean, we can.
I think there's only one gaming topic today, right? Grand Theft Auto. I mean, anybody see the trailer of it? Pretty crazy. And yeah, I was thinking about it earlier when I was watching it. I was like, that game has been going for Grand Theft Auto 5 has been going for 12 years.
Yeah.
And they're making us wait another year for it to come out. And I was like, what an incredible achievement in creating a a product that can last that long. And I think that's maybe like one of the things that we can, again, a first panel I've been to, and I'm very happy to be here. But it's an interesting topic when we think about the longevity of games and what other industries can learn from that. So I'm just putting that out there mainly because I just watched the trailer. So nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, I think I was probably in college when I saw that for the first time. GTA, honestly, yeah, it has stood the test of time. The Rockstar Games has done incredibly well, and I think it's one of the first few games that explored the open model. Like, hey, you can go open environments, you can do multiple ones, because previously it was all about storytelling. And that was the first one of the very first few games. I think Assassin's Creed was the first one where you kind of do the parkour in open-ended environment, and then came this one where you start doing a lot of missions where just hang out basically.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like that is formed, a lot of games off the back end. There's games that came before it. But it's an interesting, as you say, it's the open model to be able to do open gameplay. But the Grand Theft Auto Online component of it, which is fostered, is been the kind of beacon around the Fortnites of the world. Minecraft's been going for a long time, but Minecraft. But that idea that you can have an evergreen piece of content that is continuously being monetized, I just think is a really fascinating gaming model. I thought maybe slightly pertinent for today's discussion. I don't know any thoughts in the chat on that, but maybe I can do an introduction as well. So yeah, Joe Newcomb as Subash said, Vice President for Alice Smith, and we're a gaming studio, develop our own indie games as well as help create games for third-party studios as well. And my topic, the thing that I'm passionate about is around gamification and taking the kind of methodologies and ideologies from the gaming industry and bringing those into other areas. So I'll always beeline into that kind of topic. Vebs, maybe it's worth just doing a little.
I'll go last. I'll let Alok. You wanna go next?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Alok. As Subhash mentioned, I was speaking at one of the previous events as well, which is to do with sports. So for me, gaming really is more of a passion and a hobby, and it just happens that somewhere my passions and my hobbies have converged after having worked in sports. If at some point in time, if Twitch would have been what it is today, when I was growing up, I would probably have been a full-time streamer and a gamer. There was so little awareness of what careers in gaming could look like. So never say never. Maybe it's not too late. I could probably be the oldest streamers in the world at some point in time. But otherwise, my day job involves managing revenue and operations for one of the largest sports leagues. I work in the Indian Premier League, and I manage the operations and revenue for one of the teams in the Indian Premier League called the Rajasthan Royals.
Cool. Thanks, Alok. And I'm Vaibhav, in foreign languages many times known as Vebs. just to adjust my internationalization standards and adoption. So I grew up in game industry. I knew that this is the industry I want to be since I was a kid. I was one of the very first few Indians who was in India and went through a professional game development career path. So I think there were 60 game developers in a big population of India that went to professional education, because there was only one college that time, gaming college in India. So that was very well known. So I had the opportunity to work with Microsoft as a game development studio. We developed a lot of games for Xbox, Xbox 360, PS2, Nintendo DS, and PlayStation 3 was getting launched that time. So we did a lot of that. Then developed a lot of serious games. So serious games are when you use games for education. So that's where I worked for the US Defense, and and the Unity was born that time, which is one of the famous games. So we started training Marines and a lot of Air Force on how to provide medical aid in remote geography. So before they go over there, we use the same concepts that we see in gaming, but started training them how to accommodate themselves in remote environments without using any lethal forces. So that was the serious games part of it. And then I would join the corporate because, you know, the 2008 Lehman Brothers happens, and gamification and gaming kind of became in and out, dipped toes. So that's when I kind of went into, as I called, corporate jobs, because gaming is not corporate. Thankfully, I've been in and out with gaming, and right now I'm kind of leading the media entertainment in services in Microsoft globally. And I had an opportunity to work with Joe, who is also ex-Microsoft. So we kind of did a couple of gigs in gamification together, and yeah. Happy to be here. Part of the gaming community, IGDC, IGDA in India, in GDC. So yeah, it's been there since I grew up, basically. But absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, GTA is one of the key topics, hot topics today, and then there are a lot of e-gamings. I'm assuming there are a lot of e-gaming fans over here, right? So one of the topics I want to say, like, we call it e-gaming, but I remember talking or going to video game parlors, e-gaming has always existed. It was just the shape of e-gaming has changed, right? Street Fighter has been there, God knows how long, and every time you go to video game parlor, you would always watch your friends playing in the parlor when you had the limited currency, and you would just, you know, watch them play, whether it's Pac-Man, whether it's pinball and all that. It's just that it has taken an official industry right now in digital form. So when it comes to eSports in a way always existed. It has just taken a proper shape and form in an industry to a point. I was in CES in 2020 and I saw a whole stadium that was built just for eSports. So that was like, okay, this is going to places now. What do you think about that, Alok, Joe?
I think you're absolutely right. And there was a RFP that I saw not that long ago that was just focused on building this in universities now, building gaming rooms and esports rooms in university campuses for furthering that career. So yeah, I think it's gone are the days. It's an interesting one with gaming, and I don't know how other people in the room feel, but I always shied away from mentioning that I was a gamer when, you know, especially as I was going on my, like, you know, career and working in different areas before I found, you know, my homes in Microsoft and Alison Smith. It was always like, yeah, I play a little bit of games, but actually it's something now that is positive, and I think it doesn't have the same stigma attached to it that it did, you know, probably when we first started gaming, right, Babs? And it's just and you know, in doing LAN parties and things like that. It's actually something that's really, you know, that is interesting, and people are seeing as a viable career path as well.
Yeah, Alok, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as far as the career path is concerned, as I said, I seriously at some point in time thought about it. But now when Joan is mentioning, you know, I was just in my head thinking, if I had to explain this to my in-laws that I'm a gamer, how would I explain that? And I don't think they would understand, and I would still be single. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing right now. But I think gaming is so core. And personally, through my career, uh, the fundamental difference that I see that what Joan, you and Webbs have done, and what sort of I have been doing, you guys have managed to make some money out of games. Whereas I've always been on the side who's spending money making games. So you guys need to sort of give me some offline tips later on how to sort of first make some money out of gaming as an industry, as a business. But one of the biggest things that I've seen gaming do in two industries, examples I'll take. One is the fast-moving consumer goods industry, and the second one is sports. Is it manages to give you access to a very new and a different kind of an audience. Okay,
Yeah.
so this need not be kind of your core consumer. Uh, Maybe they're not watching sport as much. Maybe they're not buying your product as much, but they are engaged with the idea of games and gaming. And for me personally, I got introduced to FIFA through video games. I'd
Yeah.
never seen a football match before, never on TV. But I first started actually playing FIFA as a game before I started watching football. And I can imagine that there are so many people like me out there, especially in the developing countries, who do not have access as much as, folks in Europe or the US have, wherein there's so much sport all around you. There are stadiums just within stone's throw distance away. How do you sort of really get people, fans, audiences in different parts of the world excited? I think that's where I see gaming as a fantastic bridge to bring these fans and bring these audiences into the fold, whether you're a brand wanting to reach to a different group of people, or you're a sports team wanting to grow its fan base. So that's the first part of it. The second bit, I think, is with my previous experience. I used to be in motorsport, and I used to be in a sport called Formula E. And at Formula E, the focus really was on sustainability, doing everything green. And we tried a small experiment wherein it kind of the experiment came out of a necessity because the COVID pandemic hit, and we had to stop racing around circuits across the globe, and we had to sort of move back and sit at our homes and still try to run something, still try to engage fans. And we started and sort of an eSports championship. And what we actually did that season was, I think this was the 2020 season, if I'm correct. But what we did that season is we went out as Mahindra Racing, then went out and partnered with Twitch. And the finale, which was being streamed live on Twitch, we kind of made a pledge wherein for every stream that we get on the finale, we will go out and plant a tree. So we kind of managed to tie in gaming and purpose together. And I've seen this happen more and more where a lot of these championships, especially with gaming and esports, are tying themselves down to very purpose-led initiatives. So I think gaming I also see. So one is expanding your fan base and making your fans more inclusive, giving people access. Second is also expanding, kind of letting a larger group of people join in a larger purpose that you might want, or which is a part of your vision for the world. So I think purpose and inclusivity are two things which I have personally seen go hand in hand with gaming and esports. So that's how my journey has been, and I'd want to hear from you guys on how you see these two elements evolving.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, spot on, Alok, onto various aspects of our lives that it kind of touches upon. We get a, I was lucky enough to kind of study it academically, and we in Microsoft are doing a lot of investments and research on engagement part, and the big part, if I want to kind of put a heat map, which it has done since 1990s, when the internet kind of got into the situation where we actually started interacting, is community, right? There is no debate about it that gaming has led such a vast community come together, right? The first thing that happened was online chat, where people started chatting. But after that, when the multiplayer games started kicking in, that brought people together. I mean, taking what you're saying, it was coming from a developing country, India. It was incredible how cool it was to hear swearing from somebody around the world when you're playing the game, like whether it was strategy game, Age of Empires, or whatever it is. The fact that you were able to do an activity together with somebody who is hundreds and thousands, like tens of thousands of miles away, and be able to kind of, engage together. That's the piece that it kind of brought together in terms of communities. And when Xbox got launched and PlayStation and Nintendo, everybody got along, the community got created over here. I think that was absolutely the biggest change I've seen in my life, like the managing the enablement of communities that it has formed over here. So whether it's a Street Fighter fan club, which I'm part of, by the way, or whether it's Mortal Kombat, or whether Age of Empire, or whether StarCraft, the communities kind of came together, removing the barriers of geographies, developed countries, and equal amount of focus. That's something I think one of the biggest impact of this industry over there, in my mind. That's how I see it from academics point of view. Joe?
Yeah, and I think tying those kind of two together is when you see communities form around Twitch as well. And we're lucky enough to do various projects. Sorry, I'm just going to cough. Well, we're lucky enough to do various projects on Twitch, and it's just fascinating to see how communities come together in these without even sometimes even playing games, just watching the games and engaging in the games, and connecting on how strategy, or just jokes as well about how you can be brought together. So yeah, there's this community element of like come together in games, playing games together, community element of finding other like-minded people across the world, and then there's even finding people who just like watching people play the same games that you like watching, and then it's amazing how it does bring people together. And I think it was only and maybe it's a biased opinion, but it was definitely accelerated during the pandemic as well. I mean, I certainly found solace in playing online games and connecting with friends that I wasn't able to connect with, and that's something that's followed after the pandemic as well, where it is become a social channel and a community channel that you can engage in. And I think that's a super important point. And the other piece I looked that you mentioned too, that it made me think about some of the kind of metaverse strategies that have happened recently with Disney and Roblox live streaming sports games within these communities, right? You have these communities of generations that are playing these type of games. So you see more and more, rather than streaming the actual video footage of a NHL or NFL game, they're actually creating that digital twin within those games, so that a new audience can actually engage with the matches. And right to your first point, I think how many other people will be exposed to new sports and new things through these platforms, especially as technology advances and we're able to create more and more immersive experiences.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. We talked about the impact of gaming has done to us. And now we are at the point with the introduction of metaverse and virtual reality and augmented reality. I mean, Pokemon, holy, I cannot say more because I'm on recording. The kind of impact it has done on communities. I mean, if you see when it got released, everybody used to go in a mob. There are people who group together on Friday evening. Either it's Knightsbridge or different part of London or different part of the UK. I've even seen few fanatics who are taking flights to go geography because they want to have a special edition Pokemon, and they go in a groups and they go and hunt Pokemons over here. So that's the recent digital to physical impact. So previous was digital to digital impact. It has brought Pokemon, the likes of Pokemon has brought digital to physical impact. And now when we consider the metaverse, I don't know, what are your thoughts on what is the next impact that the gaming is going to have in our lives over here? I mean, Ready Player One kind of showed how it can be, but that's a futuristic view. But what is the immediate ones that you? Because I know, Joe, that you have been working on a lot of gamification concepts. I've been working on
Yeah.
game, and Alok is doing a lot of it fan experience over here. So what's the next? What's the next big step that is taking over here?
Yeah, without going too dystopian, I think it is about and it's like this in outside of gaming as well. It's about personalization, and it's about having personalized experiences and feeling affinity with what you're doing. And I think that's the next piece. And whether that is through a metaverse experience, I mean, most likely it's going to be augmented reality. That's what's going to bring once the cost barrier drops and everyone can afford the latest AR version of a MetaQuest or an Apple Vision. That's when we'll see that next level of immersion of being able to connect the physical and digital space. In the short term, what we're seeing is the rise of gaming mechanics and gaming methodologies being brought into other platforms, in the sense of you're seeing more and more move towards microtransactions, or at least that's the conversations we're having around digital currencies, digital economy, rewarding behavior over transactions, and which gaming is always done in an incredible way, right? You play a game, you earn points, your points amass, you earn levels. As you earn levels, you unlock things that have some kind of social status within that game. And I think we're seeing that same kind of game loop being merged into various industries, sports, and I'd love to get your vision on this, Luke. But definitely we're seeing a lot in sports, but equally in retail as well, and how you can turn, I suppose, what gaming's done really well is loyalty. And we've talked about community now for the last 5-10 minutes of like, that is effectively a loyalty program. You are engaged in this community because you care about it, you care about the brand, and you care about the other people within that brand. And I think we're seeing that same kind of mechanic and methodology moving in outside into other areas. So the next immersive experience will be not just a game, it will be how you are connected. And the metaverse isn't just like you're putting on your goggles and going into a different world. It's about you are in this brand world. I'd love to hear what your view is from the team that you work with.
Yeah, so I believe I have one comment and I have a following question, which is to both of you. Comment that I have is, and I've spent the last decade and a half in digital. I've seen the evolution of digital, every form of social media that has come since the early days to what it is today. I think what something like a YouTube did to video, to content creation, or something like an Instagram or a Facebook, it kind of democratized content. When I used to, in my early days of marketing, you need to have big budgets to make a television commercial, which you then needed to have even bigger budgets to put it on the networks and make sure that a few million people see it. With the likes of YouTube and other forms of social media, what happened was everything got democratized. And now anyone with a phone can make a commercial and just put it across different networks, or just share it with friends on WhatsApp. Do you see something like that happening with gaming? Because today, the entry barriers to gaming for brands, for sports teams, are still relatively high. And I see Webb smiling because he gets all the revenue. So when he's making all those fancy games. So see, the entry barrier is still high. And to answer your question on metaverse, you spoke about Roblox. So we've kind of been evaluating for quite some time, and not just in my current setup, even in my previous setup, we were evaluating what could we do with gaming. And I don't know, John, you probably would know, there's event called the World's Fastest Gamer, which also sits on Amazon. So the guy who was the world's fastest gamer, in fact, used to work for us in my previous company. He used to be our guy helping us design our simulators and, making improvements over there. Rudy Van Buren, who's now sort of a full-time racer. But the idea is, if you really want to build something meaningful in the metaverse, in the Roblox universe, you need to actually put in a lot of money up front. A lot of investment needs to kind of go up front. A lot of planning needs to go up front. And even after that, it's still just one part of the puzzle. Okay, where you've got the product ready. Now you need to think of distribution. You need to think of acquiring new users, engaging them, retaining them. So it's quite a cumbersome task. It's still not fully democratized. There isn't like a version wherein you go online and a novice can just build something, build an experience, and people can start experiencing in the next 4 hours or 5 hours, which is like you go on social media, you create a profile, you record a video, you upload, and you're out there. I mean, your first message is out there. So do you guys see this democratization happening in gaming? How will the entry barriers kind of sort of lower down for more brands, more sports teams to come on board?
Yeah. So, Joe, is it okay if I take this one?
Yeah, you take this, definitely.
What talk it can show it, right? We're talking about democratization. Okay. I'm going to play a game now with all this audience, right? Because the theme is gaming, during the course of this talk track, and then the remainder of time, I'm going to put some questions over here. Whoever answers that first and answer most amount the correct question is going to get gift hamper from me. Why don't we try it now, right? We have a community, we're talking about it. So the first question I'm going to type over here, whoever answers that first, and there will be questions popping in while we are doing. So keep your eyes out, everyone. And they're going to get a really good amount of money. Okay, I'll release it. £100 voucher. They're going to get it over here from me. And then see what happens. So rather than talking about it, why don't we try it? And just to keep it out, the questions will come from Joe, Alok, and me during the course of this one. Because we are digital, we can do this, right? Why don't we play a game? There is no simulator made. All we have a chat box over here where we're going to ask questions. And if you answer the question, you win, right? So let's try it and see what happens, Alok. What do you think, Joe?
Sure, 100%.
So are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to write this one.
I mean, can I win it?
No.
Yes, of course you can.
No,
you should ask that question. Of course you can.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I think this is the game that everybody has heard about in their lives. Okay, whoever answered this first correctly with the rest of the questions, we'll do the analysis, and Subhash and I will reach out to that person. And okay, so the first answer is Nitin, right? So we can continue this conversation and see how this goes, right?
Super.
And I'll answer so we do it and we see it, like, we'll see what happens, see what the engagement is right now. Okay, so there is one more dimension I just want to talk about. We talked about the immersive reality. We talked about democratization on different platforms, and now we are doing in Zoom. If Microsoft is writing games on Zoom, then that says a lot right now. The third part, which I think is going to happen, is there was one sort of game playing that used to happen before digital, and it's going to come back eventually. And it's a hypothesis. And that is, you have to say AI these days, and in everything. With the enablement of generative AI and maturity of it, you can have screenless experience, and with your your tongue and your ears, right? You can listen and you can talk. And we had all those games when we were kids in 80s and 90s where there was no digital entertainment and you play games among each other. I think that kind of motion of games is probably going to come back. I don't know if somebody there is a ex-Apple team who got the biggest funding where they're creating a phone without any interface. There is no screen on it except the laser, unless you want to do some diagnosing, right? It's basically a name tag over here, and that's your phone that has been released, and it has received the biggest amount of funding. And the reception is incredible based on what you're seeing. So if you take the concepts of generative AI, intelligent AI, and if you remove the barriers of screen, right? We used to play a very common game known as Antakshari. Like you sing a song and then wherever it ends, you do that. We used to game plus Atlas. You talk about country's name and whatever the last letter is, you have to think about the country name or a state name, and you continue until somebody loses. Those were a very traditional form of games, and I think they will come in some shape and form in today's version. And that would be a new dimension that I am hoping would be added at the back of these new ways of removing the barriers of game controls or keyboards or mouse, and you just talk to someone, right? You don't need screen to talk to someone. You just need to hear and talk. I think those form of games is where I'm betting my chips on as the next form of gaming that will also emerge out of nowhere, a completely new, and we are used to it. We just didn't know about it. What do you think about that?
That I haven't even thought about that before. That's really interesting, and it kind of makes sense as well, doesn't it? Especially when those are games where you can, and the AI plays twofold in it. One with the automatic translation. So again, that democratization of playing games across various different cultures. That's something that it allows you to do. And also it allows you to play against also no one or the AI. So it's something I've never thought about before, but I think it's a really interesting area, and you can imagine how many of us listen to podcasts, right? And when you're on the commute, and is there something there that period of time where gaming can intercept our lives, which is currently being taken up with listening to other forms of media? No, I think it's a really interesting thought, Babs.
Yeah, and I'm actually experimenting with some of those because in my previous life I used to be a technology guy, so who can write code and all that. With ChatGPT, half of that is done. But anyway,
I've seen you write code before. I know you're not used to be, you still are.
Yeah, but I think that form of new game immersion, a lot of experimentation is happening. Yeah. And the other dimension that I'm seeing, which I think Alok, you were talking about from the sports media point of view, Joe, you talked about it, where I think gaming is a vertical right now. Moving forward, I think it's going to be horizontal. Right. So the engagement of apps, the engagement with WhatsApp, the engagement with Facebook, YouTube, consoles, it is going to have some sort of gameplay mechanics in it, because there is always that ask from the brands, the products, how do I engage my users? And there was a really good experiment that was done with, and I'm using Cambridge University. I'm using the Cambridge University as an example, where there is a tipping point when you use the gaming as something you're interested in and you're using it and becoming fans, right? There is a reason why we pay money to wear Halo t-shirts. There is a reason why we pay money to kind of get Mario collectibles. It's a free branding for the customer, but we are not the customers. We are fans. We are diehard fans. We love Mario, right? We love Street Fighter. We love StarCraft. So gaming as a vertical, those concepts of gaming as a vertical, how do you not treat somebody as a customer? How do you treat them as, can you be my fan, right? Or can I do something that will make my users as fans? That will take this vertical into a horizontal. That is a very interesting trend that at least I am seeing where I'm sitting over here. So going back to your point, Alok, whether it's sports industry, Joe, retail, education, it's absolutely amazing. And the biggest example I'm seeing every day, I'm learning Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, just for fun. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. because I know I would lose my #1 position in the leaderboard if I do not wake up at 5 a.m. and beat some of the people who are competing with me, right? And I've gone from bronze leagues to silver league, and I'm about to get into gold league. I'm so excited about that. But the behavior over here has made me so much converted from a Duolingo user into a complete fan. So much that I'm now going to pay all the avatars and digital products at the back of it. I think that power is what I'm seeing, that horizontal, vertical to horizontal part over here.
And Duolingo is a great example of it. It's one of those ones where, you know, I wouldn't say my dad's a gamer, but he's on a, 900-day streak on Duolingo, and actually and what's even more impressive is he was hospitalized for like a week during that 900 days. I was like, how did you keep your streak going? How did you do this? You're not prioritizing your health, Dad. No, it's a great example. And I think democratization is going to come more and more in as, AI, as you kind of alluded to, Babs, it always feels like AI is the answer to everything. But I think AI and the right platforms, to your point a little while ago, Luke, around how do you afford to have these experiences right now? And I think there's a lot of work being done in the game engine space with like Unreal and Unity to create these marketplaces where people can just start to utilize the assets from other games and bring those into your games. And I think we're only going to see, with more natural language, that barrier getting shorter and shorter, and in the same way that we can now use natural language to create an application. To your point a second ago, Vebs, you're writing your code in ChatGPT. The natural extension is that into games, and that's where the democratization will come. The financial revenue models of it, no idea, but that's to be seen.
Yeah. So I think that's really fascinating, the marketplace and the assets bit. And a linked question that I have to that, because that could technically transform the way gamers play games and the builders build them, is blockchain. I mean, do you see these assets being converted to NFTs, which people can own outside of the gaming marketplaces, can trade them, carry them from one game to another? And how do you see that evolving? There was a lot of hype 2 years ago on play to earn gaming. There was a lot of speculation, a lot of speculative money flew into it. Hundreds of millions of dollars is flowing into it pretty much every month. Every NFT project was like, oh, we will make a game at the end of it, and most of them have sort of bombed and gone down 99%. So, but the big studios, what are the sort of big studios and the big companies thinking? How do they see NFTs being integrated into games? How do they see play to earn evolving? Like what Vaibhav's doing is a small version of play to earn. He's saying, okay, you play and then I'll give you some money.
I think it's going to be, when it happens, it won't be called NFTs, because I think the gaming community is been pretty vocal about the use of NFTs, and I think what will happen is you will just be able to, as you rightly say, have your assets and move those between different areas, and that would just be part and parcel of how we play computer games. And underneath that, I do believe blockchain has a place to play. Once, there's obviously some issues around scalability of blockchains and the challenges that they inherently have around performance due to cryptography. But I think that the idea of transferring assets will happen, but it'll be done in a stealth manner where you won't know that it's an NFT. That's my opinion. I don't know if you have a differing one.
It's too soon to say where it's gonna go, in my understanding, and I have to say it over here because we have used the word blockchain and NFT, so I'm legally obliged to say what I'm about to say is opinion of mine, not Microsoft. So that because blockchain is involved now, so you can see, right? Blockchain has gone through various cycles of hype and highs and lows over here. We have seen Decentraland and we have seen all these areas. It's too soon to say what shape will work. there is a part of it that is going to work because game economy has always been there. Digital assets has always been there since the introduction of online gaming, and NFT represents a new way of kind of providing the ownership and all that over there. So there is a place for it. Is today the right shape and form? I don't think so. But that's why we are where we are as the introduction of this new technology. There are too many permutations to point to one particular area. This is how it's going to mature, basically. So that's where we are. So
that felt like a Microsoft answer.
Yeah, that felt like
that was not an opinion. That was a Microsoft answer.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. No, I mean, again, I'm just curious to understand that how do you guys see it, given the fact that you're the ones who are working deep in the trenches, building out games every single day. So it's very important.
Yeah,
that
and from our perspective right now, we're not seeing the clamoring for it or people going like, we want to do this, because what you got to think is these closed economies are also pretty lucrative as they are. So you kind of go, do I want to mess with a model that's really working? That whole microtransaction model. So I think a lot of them are kind of like waiting, and someone will make a jump. It'll be a big studio, but who it be, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, so I assure you it's not a Microsoft answer. I really don't know is the answer. Sometimes it's just we are working on a lot of NFT projects. We are I don't know if you have seen our announcement with Dentsu, that Dentsu is creating a metaverse with Microsoft for education, right? Where you can go and learn a lot around education. So there is a whole metaverse over there that we are working with Dentsu over here. How does those kind of concepts get applied into gaming? I mean, I don't know if we have any Dragon Ball Z fan over here, right? So Dragon Ball Z, the verse, they are doing something really cool in terms of you don't just go and start the game. You have to kind of progress to a level before you start doing. There's a lot of buying, selling, and monetization of assets that happens over there. So maybe that's one of the shape that it can take, but it's really too soon to say. There are some obvious use cases where you are getting the standard of like, hey, these are the digital assets. And if you have, let's say, 4 games or 5 games as a game studio, and you want to use the same asset across all these ones in order to something, and Joe, I'm assuming it's okay. We use the term called SAPs. SAPs is status, access, power stuff. If you really think about it, all the gamers or all the users of a game get triggered as humans across all these 4 things. Either you want a particular status, I am the VIP, you are this, or you have access to a special particular product or thing that nobody do, or exclusive sponsored content, or you have a power that nobody has. For example, Subhash has a power to moderate the entire community. That's a power, right? Or stuff. Basically, you get rewards, you get things over here. So and the entire gaming kind of goes across all these concepts of SAPs. If you really think about NFTs, the access and status are the trigger points that goes very close to NFT over here. Which shape it will take, I do not know. But when we talk about the segmentation of people, there are types of gamers who like status and stuff, I think, or access and stuff. These are the areas where I think NFT will play a big part. I think. How? I don't know. I really don't.
I think that's quite enlightening. When SAPs is something that people yearn for in real world as well, right? Status, access, power, and stuff. You're always collecting stuff. Yeah, most of us are, at least. But good. I think I just have a couple of questions. I'm just trying to pick your brains, given that you guys are doing so much in this space, and you touched upon gamification. Now, what will be helpful to really understand is if an ordinary, a boring, let's say B2B brand has to really build something on top of gamification, or has to use the idea of gamification to engage its users and assume that these users are not young teenagers or the Gen Zs, but they are slightly evolved 30, 40-year-olds who probably are buyers for the B2B customers. What sort of gamification can you kind of
So you
explore, or
normally,
what are some of the opportunities there?
yeah. So I will give you, first of all, a sneak peek. We are working with Allison Smith and we are working with other partners. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot of articles exactly on this topic that will be published very shortly. So they're basically getting it over here. And the idea over here is, how do you use gamification, as I was saying, vertical to horizontal approach? What are the elements that we are seeing enterprise adopting in some geographies around the world that we see are replicable across all other geographies, whether it's retail, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's logistics, whether it's education. You have seen already education B2C, but there. So there is a series of not white papers, articles that we are working with our partners that will be released, and I will use them on LinkedIn. So I just want to kind of share that it's such a big topic and such a hot topic that we have actually, I am actually spending a lot of my time over here to make sure that, you know, everybody gets goodies out of this, because there is so much for everybody to gain out of it. We see these parts as three areas, which is at the center, you have engagement. And if you see three circles around it, the one is the acquisition, monetization, and retention, right? Those are the three areas that you look over here. Different geographies, different industries have different priorities over here. For example, the cost of acquisition might be very high in the US and in, let's say, Japan. Cost of retention is very high in geographies like India, right? Because of the super app behavior. So there are different trends that are trying to take care for this one. The way we approach over here is, what are the KPIs that you're looking in terms of the monetization, retention, and acquisition? Do you have a lot of users, but you're not able to monetize on them? Do you have a lot of users, but as soon as they come, they just, you know, uninstall your app or your game in 2 days? And we were talking about, you know, GTA, decades of fan base. You have consistent across all those three areas, which is, you know, that's why GTA is where it is. So we kind of look at it, and there are different tactics across these different areas, right? If you're interested in acquisition, then there are different capabilities of gamings that get pushed forward, right, over here. If you are in retention space, then there are different capabilities over here. A simple example is what I'm doing over here, right? We want to make sure that everybody, you know, is engaged over here. So I'm writing questions. That's a very small tactic, but it's just like, you know, there's a whole thesis about it, and there's a whole engagement about it that we do. And if you're trying to do monetization, that's a very different one. You have a lot of users. WhatsApp was the biggest example, as I was telling someone today. It took a lot of time for WhatsApp to become huge user base, huge retention, but the amount of time it took to monetize over here took time, right? Now that you have WhatsApp Business, WhatsApp API, more than half of Netherlands run on it. So there are different tactics how you kind of get over here, and we stay tuned. We are going to release a lot of articles on that.
I think gamification has been there's been like, it's been a dirty word in a way for a while, because people did it badly. You know, when it first came out, the idea of this points, badges, leaderboards, and just like, you know, the randomly giving stuff to people and actually distracting the user experience and the user journey just because they thought people wanted points, badges, leaderboards. And I think there's to Vebs' point, it's like understanding those KPIs, and then there's some great articles out there already. One I particularly love is the self-determination theory, which was actually written in the 80s around employer engagement, but it's now being used to basically put forward strategies for games completely. And so the idea is you focus on, there's three core drivers that a lot of people have. One is this feeling of competency, completedness, which is this feeling of mastery. So you have to, if you just give away points, but you don't have a feeling of you've earned those points, then they're kind of worthless, right? They mean nothing. So this idea of making people feel a level of mastery in what they're doing. The other one is agency. So a big driver is making the people feel like they are on their own journey and they can play the game how they want to play their game. And that could be a game, right? Some people want to, play the game to win. Some people want to play the game to socialize. Some people just want to explore and lose some time in it. Everyone wants to play a game in a different way. And I think that's how we'll also see brand experiences, having this level of agency, engage with the brand in a way that you want to. And then the final one, which we've talked a lot about today, is relatedness. Do you feel like there is social validation based on how you're engaging in the actions? And I think if to some degree you can kind of fill those three core drivers, then that's where gamification comes in. Obviously, backed by what Feb said around this idea of driving those actions aligned to a KPI. So yeah, I'd like to say there's a simple answer to it, but there's not. It's really about it's actually behavioral economics and motivational behavioral design.
Yeah, I think we have talked a lot about games and games as elements and how it's used across industry. I just want to kind of maybe change a bit of gear onto e-gaming, the trends that I've seen, at least I have seen. So I go back to the parlor analogy that I was taking. We would sit on a parlor, watch pinball and Pac-Man, and take turns to compete scores. From digital world, we started doing the Age of Empires, StarCraft kind of communities got built. Then the next generation came, Street Fighters and fighting games and Mortal Kombat. Now I see then the Fortnite is still there, Fortnite kind of communities, and now I see 7 and 8-year-old, there's a whole gang that comes in my house and the only thing they want to watch is Goat Simulator, which is age group of 7 and 8. And my nephew, who is 4-year-old, he's watching some car random game on YouTube entire day, right? 5 different generations in a way with age gap of 10 years doing eSports, but in 5 different genre of gaming. That is very interesting, right? So age group, what I see of age 10 to 14, they are more into Fortnite and the likes of Fortnite. For 7 to 8-year-old on the areas of Goat Simulator, I have I don't know. It's just maybe just me. The amount of tongue that comes out of that goat is is hard to watch for that long period of time. But apparently kids love it. And 4 to 5-year-old who is just on YouTube and watching the car race and crashing on each other and people shooting out, right? That's a trend I've seen. I don't know if you have seen the similar trends on eSport or any differentiation that you have observed over here, but you have 40-year-old, 30-year-old, 20-year-old, 10-year-old, 5-year-old, all doing eSports, but at different kind of, ways of doing it. So
yeah, and I think there's the other part as well where it's just which we alluded to earlier, it's just watching the celebrities, or not, they are celebrities, watching these people play games really well, speed run, and I see that a lot. Just going and watching these streamers, it's like watching, football on the weekend, right? And you want to watch these people who are top of their craft play their sport, and that has such a huge following as well on top of that. So I think that's the only other piece on top of just watching the videos about it, is watching people play games and watch that. And I mean, you don't have to look, when we think of the economy of it, you don't have to look much further than some of the deals that have happened recently with the shakeup between trying to you might have seen online the streamers revealing where their next platform of choice is going to be, and kick.com has been an upstart on Twitch, and obviously YouTube is got its following, and you've got people paying, Kick paying like $70 million dollars for exclusivity for a specific streamer, and that is an esports star. That is a true Messi equivalent of sorry, all my references are football, I apologize. That is the Messi equivalent. So that's the only other piece. You don't have to look much further than the contracts and the deals to see how much of a following this has. And was it last summer? I think the Olympics did the e-game Olympics as well. So that's even bringing its way into mainstream culture.
Okay, interesting.
So, Joan, if I have to ask you a question, somebody has to get started with e-gaming. Okay, let's say as a fan, as a consumer, probably there are a lot more avenues. But as an enterprise, if an enterprise, and need not be a sports team which has a cult following of fans, but as an enterprise, if they want to sort of get started with gaming or gamification, where do they begin?
I think the Premier League did a really good job in the UK of basically having the each team has signed up an eSports player in FIFA. So there's a whole like sub thing of every single football team has their eSports star who is playing that game on behalf of your team, and that's a really easy entry because you're effectively exposing your brand to that kind of that fan base. For brands that have less of a sports team, like one of the Premier League sides, we see a lot of people trying to do it through community activations and challenges within esports communities and streamer communities, and we see that's a way of driving affiliation with different esports demographics. Or if you, I don't know, maybe we're not too old, maybe we can all just like start playing ourselves and try and create a new career. Maybe we could just do that. Well, these streamers.
Yeah, I'm saying it officially. I have been training for Street Fighter professional tournaments.
Really?
Yeah. I got my entire heuristic and the entire one, and I started doing it. But the work always takes
the work always kicks in.
Yeah, but I've not given up, so I still do my Street Fighter rounds whenever I get a chance, and I really, really want to fight professionally, not in real life, at least in Street Fighter. so if you see me on tournaments, I'd love to.
I am never going to an arcade with you because you will just absolutely destroy me and take all my money or something.
The latest Street Fighter has completely changed the dynamics. Like they have made Street Fighter more slow. Sorry, I'm talking about a particular game, but it's one of the best games.
Well, guys, I think there's a question by Azam. Azam, I think you have a question on something on ChatGPT. Azam, you there? Azam?
Yes.
Shoot.
I've noticed recently that ChatGPT. I was wondering that at some point it's presumable that it will be able to make its own games. So would that drive any game developers out of business?
ChatGPT. So I think there was some loss of conversation. I didn't hear everything, but I think I got the gist of it. The question is, with ChatGPT gaining its maturity and ability to make its own game, will there be a loss of game development scenarios? Is that the game developer jobs? Is that the right question? Did I get that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give that answer in two folds, right? There is a book called Economics in 24 hours or 24 minutes, right? I'll give you the name of the book, right? And it talks about what happens when a new disruptive technology comes in and its impact on planet. There are a few examples I just want to put over here. And I used to work in Accenture, and those were, if you go to Accenture London office, FCS, there are some big statements written over here, and I just want to quote them over here, and hopefully that will get into the answers. The first statement that I'm borrowing from one of the books is, when railways were introduced, people thought the labor market will completely be vanished. The second statement I saw when email was introduced, which is written on Accenture 4th or 5th floor, is who needs email? We have got a lot of postmans, right? And that was some famous somebody in ministry in the UK said, right? So I just want to take that apart over here, right? Are we going to do the same jobs in game development? Probably not. If you look at the game development ecosystem, the following role happens. You have somebody as a gameplay programmer, somebody who's running the gameplay, how to make it fun. You have an AI developer, somebody who's writing the AI and enemy codecs. You have a renderer or the graphics team who are writing the graphic code and making it look good. You have special effects team. You have sound engineers, you have background engineers, you have directors, you have art directors, you have texture artists, you have modelers. This is the standard team of a game developer, right? We just spoke about the new games that is going to be emerged. Pokemon Go was first of its kind, a new one. I was talking about a hypothesis of no experience games is going to emerge over here. So if you want to make a game like tic-tac-toe or Atari or pinball, then absolutely those kind of value chain will be done by automatic code. But that does not diminishes the requirement of game developer. It gives you the opportunity to go to the next level of sophistication, to create games and explore games and new mechanics that we just couldn't do before, because the amount of money it will take to create those game mechanics never had the right ROI. But now, because you have more firepower to write code with higher efficiencies, you have more roles enabled, assisted by AI. That means you can reach the more sophistication of game development that we were simply not able to reach because of the constraints of commercials. So that's something is my perspective of how AI is going to assist and open the new dimensions rather than completely swiped away the market, basically. So the postmans over there are still there, but most of the people became developers, start writing emails and got better jobs. So that's my view. I don't know, Joe, and hello.
No, I completely agree. I think what we'll see is the quality of games coming out, going full circle. It hopefully won't take even by design 12 years for the next GTA to come out. It's going to be faster. It's going to be continuously, people are going to be challenging. Ultimately, games are, in my opinion, and I think in mainstream, it will get more and more accepted, is they're an art form. They're an art form. There's storytelling. There's so many layers to gaming other than developing the game, that I think that what you'll see is more people will be able to create more content, great content. Luke's comment right at the beginning, the democratization happens. And when democratization happens, you get great content. You change content, you know. Same as when we look at YouTube, your Netflix and all of the others.
Yeah.
Good evening. I just wanted to interject. Can everyone hear me, first of all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, just on last one.
Perfect.
Did you have anything to say on the last question?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't have anything to say. I think, in fact, everything that I'm hearing, they're just more and more questions popping in my head. So I just have questions for you guys. But I'll go next. I think it was Arman trying to say something, right?
Sorry, go on, Arman.
Yes, no, thank you very much. Joan, I think you said that hopefully the next GTA won't take as long as 12 years to come out, but surely as technology gets more advanced and writing more code becomes more quick, more efficient, wouldn't it, like, isn't there also the other side of the coin where it could take another 12 years, but the level will just be so much higher, the boundaries will just be pushed that much more in the same amount of time?
Yeah, and I think when I say hopefully, I know that the 12 years is by design, because GTA Online was such a cash cow for Rockstar. So I think yes, you're absolutely right. It could definitely take 12 years, and it could be absolutely incredible, as the next one will be, I'm sure. But the hope is that because you get this democratization of creation, that you'll suddenly have much more competitive landscape with other, we don't have to rely on these tentpole titles to deliver the top quality. More and more people do it. But yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it could definitely start taking.
Thank you. I agree.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, my question is to Webb specifically on a little while back you spoke about the metaverse for education, and at the start of the conversation I was talking about gaming and purpose coming together. So, are there any mainstream projects that you've seen around which are really focused on making large scale community impact?
So I'll go back to say all these, when you're trying to make something as a bigger impact, even though we see that as a big bang, there is a lot of research and a lot of prototypes that gets developed over there. So this branch of gaming or game development that kind of helps to a purpose is what's been categorized as serious gaming. Serious gaming has been there since I've been in game industry, which is I think early 2001 or 2000, right? So serious gaming as a branch has always been there, where you use game technology for another purposes over here. So the first part of the answer is, will the game be used for much more purposeful? Is it has always been and will continue to be. And the biggest example is we had, as I was saying, that I was working for the US Defense, where they were trying to save lives, not to use lethal weapons, and use games to make that connection with people. Like if you go to a different geography where different culture is adapted that Western world is not accustomed to, before internet became what it became today, then game was a medium to do that. And game will continue to do that in serious gaming. I'll come to the second point on the metaverse. And I just want to go back to the game called Second Life, right? When internet became internet and it was mass, there was a whole community for some amount of time that started living in Second Life for almost 3 to 4 hours a day. That's something that we saw over there, right? It got shut down by Sony, but Second Life was there. The second part is Minecraft. Minecraft has so many branches. Minecraft for education is the biggest example how a gaming is being used to teach education in terms of coding, in terms of logics, in terms of aptitude. We have started seeing trends in terms of gaming for mindfulness, right? If you see the Headspace and Calm, they use the principles of gamification for mindfulness on mental health over here. That's the another one. And it goes back to the same analogy that I was saying. Game industry is a horizontal. It will become more and more, is a vertical. It will become more and more horizontal over here. So the answer is absolutely. And that's why we are taking all the effort to release those papers, how different industries get impacted by gaming in different ways. So those are basically a few fold answers over here, that it always existed. The impact is bigger, and the entry into metaverse was there in Second Life, the metaverse version back then, and metaverse, the work that we are doing with Dentsu, where we have metaverse floors with LinkedIn over there, right? So LinkedIn Learning, metaverse are over here. Minecraft is there. I think it's going to get added more and more. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And you also mentioned a couple of projects. So I've written down Minecraft for education. So I made a lot of notes, which I'm going to sort of go back later and do a little sort of deep dive on. But the link to the metaverse point is, there was a massive hype on metaverses a year and a half ago, and now suddenly it's kind of died down. Maybe in another 3 months, if the crypto market continues its current bull run, it'll come back again. But that'll bring in speculators rather than kind of serious people who are looking at investing in the ecosystem. So where you stand today, both Joan and Webbs, where you guys are, what sort of investments do you believe should go into building metaverses? And is it, in the first place, is it even worth spending time in building these metaverses? What sort of purpose is it really serving?
My opinion on it is, before you build, you don't want to do a if we build it they will come mentality. It's spend the time between now and the point when the metaverse becomes like a reality, which I do think it will, when democratization of and barrier to entry of technology allows it. The key thing is to have a community that will actually want to come to your metaverse and engage in your metaverse and engage in your experiences. And that takes cultivation, and there's that kind of like base level of gamification that's needed around engagement and just simple things that people who are native gamers take for granted around earning points when you do things. Those are the things that you can start to lay the foundations now that will allow you to onboard an active community when the technology and the cultural appetite converge.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thoughts on it.
And I'll give you a simple answer on that. The insights that I'm seeing right now. So Bitcoin just hit $40,000. So congratulations to everyone who's been sitting over there for last few months, if you're in Bitcoin. So Joe, you should have listened to it.
It's been tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a tough few months.
John, because you invested when it was 65 grand.
Yeah. Honestly, there is a portion that was at 65. Honestly, don't tell my wife.
Right. So metaverse going big. See, there is a big correlation between the cryptocurrency and metaverse right now, right? And it might not be truth or facts, but there's a perception of correlation of cryptocurrencies and the adoption of metaverse, because everybody has different level of understanding of what cryptocurrencies are, and everybody has a different levels of understanding of metaverse. I think that correlation needs to reach to a maturity level. So there is a wide understanding that Bitcoin does not define metaverse. And I think that correlation of cryptocurrencies and blockchain and metaverse needs to be widely understood before metaverse becomes what it becomes. That's part one. And the second part of here is insight sharing. We are still seeing large investments going on into building metaverse at the commercial level, and we call it enterprise. But there are enterprise level investments that we are still seeing in different geographies. Is it a good time to invest in metaverse? Answering that question, and I'm going to be a standard consultant over here saying it depends, but I'll give you the reasons why it depends. The reason why it depends is you need to look at the following parameters into your equation on ROI. The first one is the geography that you're targeting. The second one, the target audience, age group that you're targeting, where they are right now, and where they will, what age group will they will be 5 to 10 years from now. Right. That is very important parameter to consider when you're looking into ROI over here. And the third parameter over here is your ROI is one is commercial, but what other parts of ROI like dimensions you're looking at the back of this, right? Is it more of the brand building? Is it the monetization? Is it the community building? So those are the different kinds of ROIs that you also need to look at. KPIs, not ROI, sorry. So these are the three different areas you need to look at before you answer your returns. Is it the right thing to invest right now over here? The geography, because Western Europe is very different than Eastern Europe, is very different than Korea, is very different than India, is very different than Japan. Just to give you a different kind of trends that we are seeing. And Indonesia and Malaysia, they're getting bigger and bigger. Does that give you kind of flavor of?
Of course. Yes, it does. But yeah, I mean, I'll take the point on board on what are the factors that it depends on. I think that's really insightful. I think Vineet and Rahib both have raised their hands on some questions or comments, I guess.
Yeah. So who's next? Sorry, Subhash, I need your help to see who was next in the.
I think Vineet was before me, so please go ahead, Vineet.
Okay.
Hey, hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure listening to you all. But I wanted to just understand a different perspective of the discussion is how we are trying to look at the darker side of the growth of gaming and esports when we talk about the new generation. They are getting impacted, and there's a lot of behavioral change we see at them whenever we are talking about generations looking at different type of games. Now these are impacting those people also. When you're looking at, say, a kid looking at a video on YouTube of a car banging at a 80 mile or 100 mile, that patience is missing in the kids, that aggression is there. So is there a way maybe in future the gaming industry is defining of a self-regulatory body to ensure that what type of games get commercialized, or how do we control that? Because with the growth of technology, we have seen in a lot of these cases, we see in deep fake technology and all those things, which is impacting negatively the current situation. So I just wanted to understand, is there any thought around that? How do you all think you're going to control that?
Vineet, thank you for that. Just a quick, I think maybe you could just introduce yourself a bit.
Yeah, so I'm based out of London. I moved here on innovator visa. Prior to that, I was running a payments company in India, which got acquired by Amazon. Then I worked with Amazon for 5.5 years, and then moved to UK. And prior to that, I was working various banks in India. Sorry for missing out on that piece.
As I just want to take something as a joke, like you're on innovator visa. Are you sure you want to get into regulation? There's a question.
No, I completely agree. But then that regulation is a very important part of business.
It is absolutely. So again, my answer is never. Here is the answer. There are three things you need to look at over here. The first is the current generation and the influences of aggression. Gaming itself is not the only component, right? The entire change in how we deal with technology and an age group at which everybody is getting introduced to this technology. There is a very simple uh, it's a fact now that the dopamine effect that mobile phone gives you is not very far from drugs at a younger age. The whatever social media, pick up your favorite brand, right? That goes with movies, that goes with games. So it's not game alone. If you're asking this question, then the question is, what are the influential factors that is adding to contributing to aggression, and what are the governance frameworks we need to put in mind to address that? So I would not put gaming as on a hot seat. I would take everybody with me onto gaming journey. The second part over here is regulations. Regulations has been there in media and entertainment very early on. There are PEGI ratings, universal, age group 12, age group 16, age group 18, of all the videos and all the games that you play, right? The first thing that you see is which age group, depending on which geography you're from, whether it's PEGA rating or whatever the different forms of rating over here. So regulations are there. The third one, which is, I think personally, is the most important part, is the legal guardian / parents needs to play a bigger role over here when they are making the decision of exposing these content to children. When it comes to the regulations, and I'm just going to take a slight diversion on Netflix or Disney and Amazon Prime, because Amazon is widely seen, is everybody has a kid's profile, right? And there are mechanics where parent can put kids profile. If you see the adoption of using that for kids, it's extraordinary high in some geographies, but it's almost non-existent in wider geographies. So it's not the gaming that needs to be self-regulatory. I think the education needs to be with the people or the parenting, who is performing the parenting function over here, whether it's your uncles, your aunts, your father, your mother, your big brother, your big sister, whoever they are. They need to perform those functions a lot better to see what content you're exposed to. So gaming has those regulatory bodies. It has always been there. If you see the list of certifications that you need to go through to publish a game on a game console, like that 12 years will start making sense very quickly, right? Back in old days, at least, right? There is a reason why those strict regulations are there. So I think it's more about education onto the surrounding, the people who are guarding the kids over here. And unfortunately, also happens in my family. I have to go and explain them. You cannot expose these things to kids at this early age. But who cares? Like, you can go to a gaming if you want to buy, just like you want to watch a movie. If you want to watch a movie, it says you should not watch it, but people watch it, right? So it's more on the parenting side, in my opinion. I don't know, Joe, Alok, if you would like to say something.
Yeah, I'd second that, and I'd say your piece around the distribution channels as well. It's really important. You know, a platform as big as YouTube can try its best with kid filters, but as often things get through as well. So I think there's like yeah, an onus on the distribution channels of people, because often what's happening is it's not just the kids playing the games. Often that's the easiest thing to stop them from doing. It's going to be the watching of the games they shouldn't be playing is actually almost a bigger challenge. So I think there's a distribution channel piece as well that needs to be focused. But no, you're absolutely right. I think yeah, it is really about rules and boundaries and how you can how you enforce those.
Cool. Good. Thanks. I think it's time for Rahib.
Hi guys, thank you so much. I'm Rahib. I work for Grant Thornton, and I'm in the healthcare sector. I have seen a trend. So I actually studied in the US. I did my university in the US just after 9/11 happened. And one of the things that I noticed was I had quite a few of my friends in the US who went into the military. And this is coming back to Vineet's question, similar to that question, actually. So do games such as Call of Duty or, you know, sort of gun-related games have an impact on sort of vulnerable adults going into the military or things like that? Because there's a lot of PTSD affected people coming back from the wars who have said, I don't have the stats for it, but who have actually said that they get a lot of encouragement when they actually go into battle or they're in a military situation, which these games such as Call of Duties and other things like that have impacted their mental health and have sort of aggravated the mental state. So that's something.
I don't know. I'll just give you a very short answer.
Yeah.
This is a very serious topic, and I do not have the professional skills to be able to answer that question properly. So I just want to call it out that I need to go back and understand and study a lot in psychology and all that to be able to answer that question professionally, which I don't. So I do not want to make up an answer based on my limited understanding of how psychology works. The only thing I can say over here is there is one experiment I did over here with a couple of folks who wanted to go on a similar path. And this is a experience sharing. It's by any means, there is no formal answer on this because I do not have the skills to answer that question. I went to a group of male age group between 25 to 30 and asked them this question: why do you play these kind of guns games? And the most common answer I got, and this was only done in London with a certain age group. And the answer I got at the back of those were, well, imagine if there was no gun, if there was no such games with guns, what would you do then if you had similar aggression? And that was an interesting answer to me, is like, okay, so that's the only experience I can share over there. But by any means, I'm not in psychology to be able to address that. Sorry, I don't know, Joe, if you have any perspective on this.
I'm not going to be able to wholly comment on that. I think it's a very serious point and a real point, and I think, you know, ultimately, and this has happened, you know, throughout history around new art and new medium having an impact on psychology and having an impact on how certain things are viewed. So is there a correlation? I would probably say there is. Yeah, there probably is. But I'm not one to answer that at this point in time. But yeah, I think it's a very valid and serious topic to yeah, shouldn't be glossed over.
Yeah.
Good. Can we move to the next one? Shukanti?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for this great session. I work in international business consulting. I've just about started a new mandate, which I can't really reveal at this point in time. But the question that I do have is, how much is the industry trying to bring the legacy industry up to speed? And, you know, how much are you trying to get, you know, normal brick and mortar companies, oil and gas, mining, you know, traditional industries to embrace gamification, to embrace blockchain, to, you know, adopt this and make it part of their normal business cycle?
Is it okay, Joe? I'll take that one. One of the biggest projects that I'm working on that impacts the lives of multi-millions, three-digit millions, if not a billion, is around that particular point. So I'm working on a project where we are looking at gamification and its impact in the areas that you talked about. I can share that insight. Again, within the same boundaries that we have in terms of revealing information. So that is one of the biggest projects that I've been working on. And the impact is in three-digit millions is what we are expecting.
And that's pretty much my job. most of my day-to-day is talking around the same topics around the motivational psychology and, you know, the behavioral economics around gamification and how it does impact pretty much anything. When you actually delve into it, and those three core areas I talked about earlier, you actually delve into it, you can pretty much find use cases in almost any places, whether it's B2C or whether it's internal, and how people should look after their own employees. It has a place in it if done right. And yeah, so yes, there's lots of places. Oil and gas from my side, I have to say I haven't done as much in that kind of traditional manufacturing as others, but I definitely in other areas, definitely.
Terrific. So I can give an example from a manufacturing sector example, and it comes from farm and tractors business. So my wife, who was on this call a little while ago, she used to lead digital marketing for a company called Mahindra in India, which is the largest tractor maker. And she actually built a bunch of games. And the purpose of those games was how to use farm implements, what sort of seed go with what sort of soil, what sort of farming practices suit what kind of geographies. And it was not even gamification, it was a proper game. But the game actually simulated real world environments. So it was kind of you might as well had published a book about farming, but it was done in the form of a game. And it had tremendous amount of organic engagement. And from whatever I used to hear from her whenever she went for her farm visits, farmers actually ask questions about, oh, when are you going to add this implement, and this is what you've added, and this is how we've used it. So I think that's a great example, because that's a B2B buyer. In the Indian market, these are not necessarily, you might think that these are not necessarily evolved buyers, but they are using games to actually learn how to get better farming produce, etc. So I think that's one of the examples that I can think of.
No, that's terrific. I understand this is we're following Chatham House rules, but I don't know, Subhash, if it's appropriate to reach out and facilitate connections later, for a follow-up conversation. If you guys are game, sorry, punning on words, but I'd be happy to chat. Right.
Yes, Osman, let me know. More than happy to drop a line and connect.
Thanks.
Moving on to the next questions, Arman.
Good evening. Thank you for the call so far. I've at least been thoroughly interested in it. I am a first-year student in Queen Mary, University of London. I do computer systems engineering, and I mean, I've been playing games since probably 4 years old. I'm 18 now. I've had the whole spectrum from early Nintendo days to getting like a PS4 and going into like Fortnite and stuff at the age of like 11 and 12. And now I'm 18 and I have a PC now. I'm free to explore game development and just so many different genres of games because of just how accessible things are now. Even with like mobile gaming, I think is a completely separate rabbit hole of accessibility. But I just wanted to ask, in terms of game development, how high do you think barriers of entry are for smaller indie game devs, with now large companies getting easier access to more budget as the video game industry increases in size or new technology?
I'll just take that one. In my experience, in the history of game development, since I've been seeing it, I think for almost 2.5 decades, there has not been a better opportunity for indie gamers. It's like case closed is what I would say on that sentence. If you see the amount of steps that you had to take, let me just walk you through. I'm assuming you're born after year 1998, Arman, just making that guess. Is that right?
2005.
2005. So let me walk you through the series of steps you had to do to publish game when you were born, and let's compare that to today, right? Series of steps is you have to get a console kit. That was approximately in 3-digit dollars or sometimes 2-digit dollars, depending on whether it's Xbox SDK or PlayStation SDK. Nintendo, forget about it, but with DS something got opened over here. In 2006, I think DS was done. You have to pay extraordinary amount of those kits, wait for a few months for those to be shipped over here. If you're in certain geographies, that would not be granted to you unless your company size was a certain amount of value chain. And then you have to, once you have made the games, it needs to go through an extraordinary rigorous progress of getting certified either by Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo to even being published on the only 3 stores that were available that time on the console market, right? And that was one of the steps that you had to go through, which was another 3 to 6 months of journeys. Then you had to go to publishers to able to kind of get some funding or be able to put their branding on it to sell that to these kind of, big names over here. Today, you buy a laptop, you pay $100 or $60 or whatever it is on Google Play, or you pay some amount of money on Apple Play. If you want to, you can pay Unity royalty, or if you can use Godot or Unreal, which is, they have the channels. You publish the game and you get 70% of profit. Boom. Right. The first game I made at the back in 2008, I did not have money to buy a Mac that time. I somehow hacked Windows to create Hackintosh and release my first iPhone game. I spent $900 on it, which was a lot of money for me. And that made $35,000. That was the first game I released on iPhone. So if you take those kind of barriers of entry versus today, all you need is $30 or $50 subscription to Pluralsight or the likes of Pluralsight. All you need is access to the internet, which you have, a laptop, which is $2,000 or $3,000 maximum, depending on your VATs and your taxes, and off you go. So there has never been a better time to develop these games. I don't know, Joe or Alok, if you want to add something.
No, you're absolutely right, and even I'm going to promote my old company and your company, which is, when you look at the ability to just effectively spin up the game development kit for Xbox, it's a SKU on a website, and suddenly you have access to all of the power that you might need, all of the software that you'll need to create a game, and then even the channel to publish that into Xbox. So the even just the technical and barriers to entry as well just completely dropped. I've put a link which might be I loved it. It's a great read. It's called Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and it's stories from the gaming industry, and they've got some great little tidbits in there, but one around the kind of indie game development of Stardew Valley is just a great read. So yeah.
Well, Alok, anything from you?
I've just bookmarked Pluralsight is all I would say.
Yeah, there are a lot of really cool stuff out there. I know we have some question, but I do have one thing. I have been kind of going through who has answered the most amount of questions. There was a technical glitch. Arman got some benefits out of it, so I've discounted that. But aftermath of this is that there's a tie between Gujreet and Arman right now. So we need to ask one question where we can break the tie, and Alok or Joe, feel free to write one question. Whoever answers that first between Arman and Gujreet kind of wins. And hopefully, Alok, that kind of answers your question that we started on. Do we require heavy investment to just create an engagement? And hopefully this answers by itself. So who wants to write the question for Arman and Gujreet? Feel free, and whoever answers wins the voucher. And I'll work with Subhash to make sure that it happens, so that next call I come on to or meeting, I don't get where's my money.
I'm gonna ask a Web3 game question. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, Subhash. I just wanted to add that over
here. No, that's fine. It's good. That's fine. Join it.
Cool. We have two contenders, the finalists, and esports is happening right now. Everybody's watching what's going to happen. All the things we talked about has come to this now. All right.
Basically, someone has to go on Google. Search.
Oh wow! Okay.
It's gonna be a fastest finger first game.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm actually stumped on this one as well. It hasn't popped up in my head. I haven't obviously lost enough money on it. That's what.
Or with blockchain game.
Yeah, Illuvium is the answer.
So Arman won?
Yes, Arman wins.
All right, cool. So there we go. Democratized, no game simulation, just a text. Engage happened. Well done. Congratulations, Arman. And well done, everybody, for watching you win. Esports gaming both done together in the session we talk about.
Nice. Congratulations.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great stuff. Before I really sort of start my parting note, any questions? Any further questions from anybody? No? Great. So yeah, a quick call out to Reese, Arman, Sukanti, Rahib, and Azam. Please stay tuned. Please hang on. We may take some of your bites. But anyway, I think this was a fairly interesting discussion. Interesting, and I guess I should also say probably a very successful discussion for reasons more than one. This was probably the first time we were doing Tech Tuesdays virtually, an all out and out virtual thing. Obviously had my set of apprehensions, to be very honest, but it just shows the kind of engagement. It just turned out pretty well. thanks to all the industry experts out here, Vaibhav, Joanne, Alok, and of course, other guest for making an interesting one. Obviously, for a change, we can't have the networking and drinks. But I would really want you guys to come back and attend the next episode of Tech Tuesdays, which is happening on the 9th of January. And the topic is Web3. We already have got confirmation from two industry experts, and trying to sort of get a couple of more. But yeah, feel free to register yourself, share this with your friends. And to each one of you who are out here, as I mentioned in the beginning, please share, please talk, please write a small paragraph on Tech Tuesdays or LinkedIn or Tuesday or Twitter, whatever you think you are comfortable. And the names I mentioned earlier, in addition to the industry experts, I would request Reese, Aman, Sukanti, Rahib, and Azam to please stay back. We'll probably take some of your bites or short interviews. And that's it, I guess. Thanks each one of you for joining here. Enjoy the evening, and then have a great holiday season. We'll see you next year. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. Sorry, who's AB? Got it. Great.
Right.
So, given that, I'm sorry. Yes, Joy, you said.
Sorry, I didn't make out. Should I leave?
Yeah, you gotta be. You gotta be. So let me stop the recording first. YouTube first.